After being Mrs. Gu for 6 years, I got up at 5 o'clock every day to prepare a tie and suit for Gu Zhizhou. The wealthy circle of Haiqing is laughing at me, a vase from a poor background, relying on means to get to the top, and can't control her husband's heart. They didn't know that Gu Zhizhou and I were just contracted marriage for 6 years. Today, the last day of the contract, I took the divorce agreement and walked into the Gu family's old house. Mr. Gu looked at me. "Do you know the continent?" I smiled. "It doesn't matter. The time is up." When I went out, I received a call from Gu Zhizhou. "Accompany me to a charity dinner in the evening, and Miss Su needs you to deal with it." I chuckled. "Mr. Gu, find your next Mrs. Gu." The alarm clock is 5 o'clock. The crisp tick sound only sounded in the large, empty bedroom where the echo could be heard, and I pressed it off. Get used to it. 6 years, 2,190 days. And the thunder can't move. The position next to him was cold, flat without a trace of wrinkles. Gu Zhizhou didn't come back last night, or rather, he rarely came back. This does not prevent me from getting up on time every day, like the most competent employee, preparing for him the tie to be tied today, the blazer to wear, and meticulously hanging it in the most conspicuous place in the cloakroom. The cloakroom is surprisingly large, stuffed with seasonal haute couture and jewelry. Unfortunately, most of them are not my style, but the decency that Mrs. Gu should have. I know very well how the ladies in Haiqing who are wearing haute couture and looking at me out of the corner of their eyes laugh at me behind my back. Look at that Xinyang. What else is there besides that face? The pheasant flying out of the slums. Do you really think that wearing a dress is a phoenix? I can't even tie my own man's heart. And the women around Zhizhou change more diligently than clothes. They laughed at me for being poor, for climbing high branches by means to climb high branches, and even more for laughing at me for obviously not being able to sit firmly in Mrs. Gu's position. But I still didn't leave, and I would only use money to settle the wild bees and butterflies that pounced on Gu Zhizhou, wipe my butt for him, like a senior firefighter, virtuous, generous. It's just a bigger joke in their mouths. They will never know that this marriage was a clearly priced contract from the beginning. Term, 6 years. Today is the last day of the 6th year. Instead of going to the cloakroom, I went straight to the safe in the bedroom, entered the password, and took out a document bag from the innermost part. The bag was thin, only a few pages of paper. On the top page, there is a clear black song font on the top divorce agreement. I changed into the simplest white dress, with ordinary materials and simple styles, which was incompatible with the luxury of this room. There is a person who wears any jewelry and only carries a basic bag. When going downstairs, the servant Zhang's mother was a little surprised. "Madam, don't you need breakfast, Mr. Tai?" I smiled at her. 6 years, probably only in the eyes of this simple woman, I was not so much a joke. "No, Zhang's mother, today, something." The car drove towards the old house of the Gu family. The atmosphere of the old house was solemn, and Mr. Gu was sitting on the mahogany sofa, holding 2 shiny walnuts in his hands, his eyes as sharp as eagles. He looked at the agreement I put on the coffee table and didn't look at it. "Do you know?" His voice was slow, my back was straight, and I met his gaze, and the corners of my lips curled up in a decent arc. "It doesn't matter, Grandpa, time's up." He looked at me in silence for a moment, and there seemed to be a faint appreciation in his eyes that knew the world, and in the end, he just waved his hand. The lawyer next to me stepped forward and handed me another folder. Inside was brand new, a check. The zero behind the number is enough to buy half of the prosperity of Haiqing. I only glanced at it and gently pushed the check back. As agreed, I only want what I deserve. What I deserve is enough for me to have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of my life and squander wantonly, but it is far less than the wealth of my family. The old man didn't insist any longer, just gave me a cooling off period of a week. Walking out of Gu's house, the sun was a little dazzling. I squinted my eyes and took a deep breath of the free air outside. The phone in the bag buzzed and vibrated. I took it out, paused, and ran my fingertips over it to answer. The other end of the phone was as usual, with a somewhat careless and natural tone, and the background sound was a little noisy, as if it was on an important occasion. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the Peninsula Hotel, accompany me to the charity dinner, he spoke quickly, with a commanding tone. In addition, the photo was taken again on the side of the model surnamed Sue. You go and deal with it, the old rules. I lowered my head, and when I spoke again, there was a hint of lightness and relief in my voice that even I hadn't noticed. Mr. Gu, I chuckled, find your next Mrs. Gu. On the other end of the phone, there was a long, dead silence. The phone rang again. Mrs. Gu. The other party's voice was flattering and proud of me. This time it's a big fish, the pure little model that has just emerged. The video is quite clear. In the car, you see, Haiqing, a group of paparazzi who rely on Gu Zhizhou to eat, have indeed made a lot of money in the past 6 years. Gu Zhizhou changed his female companion faster than the change of seasons, and they, along with these greedy shots, have become official duties that I have to deal with. In the past, I would patiently listen to their long-winded chatter, and then simply make money, with a formulaic sentence: hard work, you know the rules. But today, before he could finish his usual guarantee that no second one will get it, I just cut off the call. The phone screen dimmed, reflecting my calm face. The crystal lights in the dining room were bright, and only a pair of dishes and chopsticks were placed on the long dining table. I picked up the silver spoon and slowly scooped up a spoonful of bird's nest porridge in front of me. The temperature is just right. The porridge is soft and sweet, just like every night in the past 6 years. It's just that tonight, what is chewed is no longer forbearance, but the freedom that is coming. I didn't even imagine how Gu Zhizhou and the little model named Sue were entangled in the car. It doesn't matter anymore. His romance, his promiscuity, and the humiliation and ridicule he brought me have all become things of the past life from today onwards. Memories are like disobedient boxes, always bouncing off inadvertently. When I first married Gu Zhizhou, it was not like this. At that time, the front pages of newspapers in Haiqing were occupied by the extremely extravagant wedding. I was wearing a priceless wedding dress and holding his arm, flowers, diamonds, the envious eyes of countless celebrities, until I saw a tabloid write with a shocking headline in order to attract attention: poor little white flower, mistress will do whatever it takes to get to the top. The next day, the newspaper office disappeared silently. At that time, Gu Zhizhou hugged me, his fingertips curled the ends of my hair carelessly, but his tone was ruthless. My wife, can they also choreograph it? The heartbeat at that moment was real. I also thought in a trance that this was the end of happiness, but now, my memories were interrupted by the sound of the door being kicked open. Gu Zhizhou came back, with a sweet and greasy smell that did not belong to any of the perfumes I was familiar with. He pulled his tie loose, with his usual, cynical smile on the corners of his lips, and his eyes fell on me with scrutiny. Which one is not long-eyed this time? What is the asking price? I didn't answer and pushed the personnel order on the tablet in front of him, and Ran can't serve as the president's special assistant. My voice was as calm as if I was reporting to work. Her major is art history, and she does not have any project management or administrative experience in large enterprises, and does not meet the hard recruitment criteria of Gu's special assistant. The smile on Gu Zhizhou's face faded. And Ran. The name was like a tiny thorn that stuck between me and him for many years. She is the real white moonlight in Gu Zhizhou's heart, pure, weak, and poor. Back then, Mr. Gu used the conditions of sending her abroad for further study, in exchange for Gu Zhizhou nodding and marrying me. Now, she's back. He looked at me, his eyes sharpened, with a bit of inquiry and a hint of imperceptible mockery. Xinyang, in what capacity are you telling me this, Mrs. Gu? Still, are you jealous? Jealous? I looked at his handsome but unfamiliar face, and there was only a barren calm in my heart. The air seemed to freeze. Gu Zhizhou looked at me, and after the sentence jealous, he seemed to want to find a crack in my face, even if it was a little shaken, but I just looked back at him calmly, tapping my fingertips on the cold edge of the tablet to bring the topic back on track. I am a shareholder of Gu Group and the vice president who is still nominally in charge of some personnel work. And I am stating a fact to you, promoting in Ren does not comply with the company's regulations and is difficult to convince, he sneered, as if he had heard some big joke, but his eyes became cold. Regulations, convince the public, Xinyang, when will it be Gu's turn to question my decision? That's it again, every time in Ren is involved, the delicate and deliberately maintained balance between us is easily broken. In fact, in the first 2 years, he was not like this. No matter how much he was outside, scandals were flying all over the sky, but he was always careful not to let the slightest specific news about Enran leak out to me. He may also know that that is the bottom line. When did it change? Memories are like damp vines, entangled. It was my birthday last year. He obviously asked people to say half a month in advance that he wanted to take a picture of the blue diamond necklace Tears of the Deep Sea that was a sensation at the Sotheby's preview as my birthday gift. The news spread wildly, and everyone said that President Gu was really doting on his wife, but on the night of his birthday, he was late and brought a pearl necklace of good quality but far inferior to Tears of the Deep Sea. He looked as usual, and even put it on for me with a bit of deliberate tenderness. I didn't say anything at the time, I just accepted it with a smile. It wasn't until the next day that a wife with a general friendship in the circle accidentally mentioned it, saying that she saw Enran wearing the Tears of the Deep Sea to attend a small-scale private art exhibition. At that moment, my heart felt like it was pricked hard by an ice pick, not painful, but completely cold. He knew he was overdoing it that night. I deliberately pushed the entertainment home, brought the dessert I liked, and the tone was softer than ever, and even tried to explain, saying that the blue diamond was not suitable for me. How ridiculous. I didn't cry, didn't make trouble, and didn't even question me. It's just that when he tried to get closer, he avoided it without a trace, and Ran didn't know where he heard the news. And he ran to the villa in the pouring rain. She was soaked, her face was pale, and she knelt pitifully in the rain, begging me for forgiveness, said that she didn't mean to, and Brother Zhizhou just took pity on her. Gu Zhizhou rushed out and saw that the white moonlight, which he regarded as a treasure, was so embarrassed and humble, and at that moment the undisguised distress in his eyes and the anger that suddenly rose when he looked at me were like the last straw, crushing all the remaining and ridiculous expectations in my heart. That's when I really made up my mind. 6 years, it's time to end. Before I could even say the word divorce, and Rant's phone came in again. With a crying voice, she panicked and said that she felt someone following her on the road. Gu Zhizhou's face changed suddenly. He grabbed the car keys and rushed into the rain without even looking back at me. In the empty villa, only me was left, and the endless sound of rain outside the window. Now, facing the coldness he showed to me because of Enran, I suddenly felt extremely tired, naturally. No one can question your decision. I put away the tablet and stood up. Just a reminder that the position of special assistant to the president is sensitive, and if there is a mistake due to lack of ability, it will not be her who needs to come forward to put out the fire in the end. After saying that, I stopped looking at his reaction and turned to leave. I didn't go back to the bedroom, but directly asked the driver to prepare the car and went to the Gu family's old house. Mr. Gu didn't seem surprised by my late-night visit. He sat in the study full of scholarly tea and listened to me calmly say the word divorce again. He fiddled with the teacup in silence, and after a long time spoke, Yang, I am actually very optimistic about you. You are smarter and more resilient than you appear. Originally, I thought that you would be like Zhizhou's mother, not talking about those false feelings, but would grasp the real identity and interests in your hands and sit firmly in Mrs. Gu's position. The Gu family needs a hostess like you who can do everything in all aspects. I lowered my eyelashes slightly. Don't talk about feelings. It would be great if it could be done, Grandpa. I raised my eyes and looked directly at him. My voice was soft but firm. If I don't talk about feelings, I can't last these 6 years. It is those feelings that have long been crushed into mud, remnants, and may still have a hint of fantasy about Gu Zhizhou, that support me in this gorgeous cage, playing the virtuous, generous, and numb Mrs. Gu day after day. No, this support has been completely exhausted. Mr. Gu looked at me deeply, as if he wanted to see the depths of my soul. Finally, he sighed. Have you thought it through? Once you leave, the Gu family will never give you another chance to turn back. I thought it clearly. I didn't have any hesitation. He no longer persuaded him, but only waved his hand. You can set the date yourself, and the lawyer will take care of it. Thank you, Grandpa. Leaving the study, I met Mrs. Gu, my mother-in-law, who was about to go back to the room in the corridor. She is an extremely elegant and transparent woman, and over the years, we have been polite and distant. She looked at me with gentle eyes and a hint of understanding. Are you leaving? She asked softly. I nodded. She stepped forward and gently patted the back of my hand, a gesture with rare intimacy. It's good, she said, her voice very soft. Congratulations, Yang. Go find your own happiness. At that moment, the tip of my nose was a little sore. In this cold and wealthy house, it was this woman who was also bound by marriage all her life that finally understood me and blessed me to leave. I took a deep breath, suppressed the wetness in my eyes, and gave her a sincere, relieved smile. Thank you, turning around and walking into the night. I knew that everything behind me really had nothing to do with me. I was the last time I put out the fire for Gu Zhizhou and dealt with his private video with that little model. Just draw a neat end to my career in the past 6 years. Then, I went to find Gu Zhizhou. When I walked to the door of the box, the heavy door was not closed, and the noisy sounds mixed with the smell of alcohol gushed out. His friends were playing loudly. Zhizhou, or Sister in Ren, is powerful, tying our Yen master's heart to death. That is, when should I have a wedding drink? Some people who occupy positions and are not interested should have consciously given up their positions, and Ran refused softly, with the shyness of wanting to refuse and greet him. I pushed the door open. For a moment, the box fell silent. All eyes, surprised, playful, and pitying, fell on me in unison. Gu Zhizhou leaned on the main sofa, and Ran was almost half leaning on his side. When he saw me, there was no surprise in his eyes, only a layer of cold, deliberate mockery. I ignored those eyes and walked straight to him. Is there something to do? Is it convenient to come out? He didn't move, shook the wine in the glass, and smiled at the corners of his lips. Just say it here. I know he won't cooperate. He enjoys this kind of embarrassing moment. I'm waiting for you outside. I didn't wait for him to attack, turned around and left, and Ran chased after me and stopped me in the corridor. The weakness just now was gone, and there was a hint of eagerness and a hint of pride in his eyes. Sister Xinyan, Brother Zhizhou doesn't love you. Why do you have to entangle yourself? Why not simply give up your position? I looked at her, and through her, I looked in the direction of the box. Gu Zhizhou did not come out and did not stop it. I suddenly felt a little ridiculous. I sneered. Mrs. Gu's position has never been given up by anyone. I ignored the pale face on her face and walked straight to the elevator. In the box behind him, a friend's joke was faintly heard. Zhizhou, don't you chase it. My sister-in-law seemed to be really angry. Then he came out clearly with a decisive and convincing voice. She won't go. She can't live without me. The elevator door slowly closed, completely isolating his words, along with the absurdity of those 6 years. Gu Zhizhou was probably the last person in the Gu family who knew that I was determined to divorce. The news was brought to the company by Gu Tingting. She rushed into the president's office, her tone undisguised with excitement. "Brother, Xinyang is really going to leave you." She even found a lawyer. Gu Zhizhou raised his head from the document, did not move his eyebrows, but hooked his lips carelessly. "She just has a temper." He leaned back into the wide leather chair. His posture relaxed, with a sense of control. "Dry her for a few days, and I will be back." Gu Tingting curled her lips. "She has always disliked me because I cut off her favorite best friend and sister-in-law candidate 6 years ago. In the past 6 years, she has often stumbled upon me in the circle and watched my jokes. Now that she heard that I was leaving, her mind immediately became active, and she formed a game that night, specially inviting her best friend and arranging it next to Gu Zhizhou, and her words were full of matchmaking. "Sister Lin has been waiting for you for so many years, and now she is finally." Before she could finish speaking, she was interrupted by a soft but sharp voice. "Tingting, Brother Zhizhou just ended an unhappy marriage. Is it inappropriate to say this now?" And Ran came over at some point, holding a wine glass in his hand, with an impeccable gentle smile on his face. Gu Tingting came up angrily, and Ran, "Is it your turn to speak here?" And Ran gently shook his glass. "I have been with Brother Zhizhou for so many years, no one knows him better than me, and it is more suitable to stand by his side. She endured for 6 years, waiting silently abroad, and now that she has returned, seeing victory in sight, how can she allow others to pick peaches again?" Mrs. Gu's position, she is bound to win. 2 women, one relying on family background and the other relying on feelings, have already gone toe-to-tap for that position before I completely left, and they will not give up an inch. And Gu Zhizhou just sat in the center of the hustle and bustle, sipping wine slowly, as if this competition because of him had nothing to do with him, or perhaps he had long been accustomed to and enjoyed this feeling of being coveted. He probably felt that my departure at this moment was just an insignificant episode in this never-ending battle around him. Gu Zhizhou began to hide from me. I don't answer the phone, I don't return messages, and I can't even see anyone in a few places I often go. He seemed convinced that as long as I delayed, I would finally compromise and continue to play the docile and capable Mrs. Gu. As I have done countless times in the past, I'm not in a hurry. I know that what Mr. Gu promised is never uncertain. He is an old man who keeps his promise and cares about the face of his family. He will not allow this marriage, which has already been set for a deadline, to drag on endlessly. Sure enough, in just half a month, Gu Zhizhou took the initiative to come to the door. It was downstairs in my newly moved apartment, leaning against the black sports car, his expression gloomy and unclear. With a hint of forced impatience, "Xinyang," he spoke, his voice a little hoarse. "What's wrong with maintaining the status quo? Divorced, what else can you do?" I looked at him and suddenly remembered the day I signed the prenuptial agreement. He didn't know that I had an agreement with the old man that if I decided to leave after 6 years, the old man would actually compensate me for other things. Seeing that Mr. Gu had a tough attitude, it was him, the first and only time, to fight for me. In the end, although the result did not change, he privately invested in a small company in my name at the time. When he handed me the document, his tone was rarely serious. "Xinyang, don't be too emotional. In this world, only money is the most reliable. It will never betray you." At that time, I believed in him, and I believed in him for me, but it was always a little different. But this difference was finally crushed by 6 years of indifference, deception, and making exceptions for Ran again and again. He personally transformed me from a silly girl who believed in true love to a madman who was almost hysterical in despair, and finally, transformed into the sober and cold Xinyang he is now. He ruined all my beliefs in love. What do I have? I don't bother, I said in a calm tone. At least, I still have that company that will never betray me, right? His face changed slightly, obviously remembering what he had said back then. I handed him a note with the scheduled divorce registration time. Next Wednesday, at 9 a.m., the Civil Affairs Bureau. He stared at the note and was silent for a moment. There was no reluctance in that silence, only the anger of being disobeyed and the slightest imperceptible, not to feel like Atlas any longer. Immediately, he tugged at the corners of his mouth, revealed a smile that didn't know what to say, and took the note. "Okay," he said. "Thank you for being quite knowledgeable and willing to vacate your seat," looking at his back as he turned away. I suddenly felt extremely happy that in the past 6 years, we have not liked children for our own reasons. It's good to break cleanly. On the day of the divorce registration, the sky was gray and it was raining lightly. I waited in the lobby of the Civil Affairs Bureau for nearly an hour, watching a couple happily enter, and then watching a few couples come out with gray faces. The pointer was about to point to the end of work. And Gu Zhizhou was late. He was wearing a crisp black suit, but his face was darker than the sky outside. There was no explanation or apology. Signing, pressing the fingerprint, the staff stamped the steel seal, and pushed the 2 dark red divorce certificates in front of us separately. "The formalities are complete." Gu Zhizhou picked up his book, didn't look at it, stuffed it into the inner pocket of his suit, turned around and left, without any nostalgia. I pinched the ink-smelling ID in my hand, and my fingertips were slightly hot. 6 years of entanglement were finally condensed into this thin volume. Back at the villa that had hosted my 6-year marriage, I began to make a final inventory of my belongings, the fancy jewelry belonging to Mrs. Gu. I didn't move one, and only packed some personal clothes. While tidying up, the bedroom door was unceremoniously pushed open, and Ren walked in high heels and looked around, his eyes picky and a hint of impatient possessiveness. "Miss Chen, let me take a look." She raised her chin, her tone with an undisguised sense of superiority. "Lest you accidentally take away something that doesn't belong to you." I paused and raised my eyes to look at her. Over the years, relying on the resources given by Gu Zhizhou, she is no longer the timid girl she was back then. She packaged herself as an inspirational internet celebrity from the bottom who worked hard to study abroad and returned to China. And she was infinitely beautiful on social media. And she would only show that weak posture in front of Gu Zhizhou. Privately, arrogance and meanness are her nature. "Get out." I wasn't loud, but it was freezing. She seemed to be stung, and her voice became sharp. "Why do you want me to get out? This place will soon be my home. I am the person Brother Zhizhou will marry in the future. Supervise you because you are afraid that your hands and feet will not be clean." New hostess. I looked at her eloquent appearance and thought it was ridiculous. In the past 6 years, I have endured Gu Zhizhou and endured gossip, but it does not mean that I will put up with her. I didn't talk nonsense to her anymore and called the security guard directly, and Rant's face changed instantly. "Shenyang, you dare. Brother Zhizhou will not let you go." The 2 security guards quickly came up, polite but tough, to make a please gesture to Ran. "What are you doing? Let me go. Do you know who I am?" And Ran struggled to be dragged away. On the day I left Haicheng, I deleted all contact information related to Gu Zhizhou on my phone and blocked the so-called friends who might have sent messages for him. In the past, Shenyang, along with that unbearable marriage, was completely left by me in that prosperous and cold city. I went to a southern city, where there was no ubiquitous gossip about wealthy families, no decency that needed to be maintained at all times, and the air smelled of freedom and saltiness. With the compensation I received during the divorce and the company that was already valuable, I founded my own new company. From site selection and decoration to recruitment and pulling projects, everything is done by yourself. Every day is busy like a spinning top, filling all the time with high-intensity work and not giving yourself any chance to think wildly in the dead of night. The wound on my heart that had been worn out by 6 years of time occasionally hurt faintly. But the frequency was getting lower and lower. A new environment, a new career, like a gentle medicine, smooths out those folds little by little. I began to get used to eating alone, watching the sea alone, and enjoying the tranquility of being disturbed by myself. In the mirror, the numbness and forbearance in his eyes gradually faded, and he had a little more perseverance and peace. That afternoon, I was discussing the design of a new project with my team when my phone vibrated on the table. I subconsciously picked it up. Madam, Gu Zhizhou's chief secretary on the other end of the phone. Sorry to disturb you, Mr. Gu. He was drunk and kept talking about wanting to drink the sobering soup you made. None of us could persuade him. Look at. The background sound was noisy and chaotic, mixed with Gu Zhizhou's drunken low and vague murmurs, which could not be heard clearly, but the familiar breath that belonged to him seemed to be transmitted through the radio waves. There was a moment of trance. It seems to have returned to the late nights when he came home late for entertainment, and I wore an apron and guarded the small pot of gurgling, sobering soup in the kitchen, but the illusion was only for a moment. I didn't even wait for the secretary to finish speaking. And with a tap of my fingertips on the screen, I hung up the call, then skillfully find that number and block it. Since then, my studio has started receiving frequent anonymous couriers. When you open it, it's either limited edition jewelry, the latest haute couture handbag of the season, and even a small famous painting worth a lot of money. I am very familiar with the style of these things, and they are the same as the gifts used to appease me every time Gu Zhizhou has had an ugly scandal in the past 6 years. He probably thought that I was still the Xinyang who would silently put away his grievances when he gave me some sweetness. I looked at these things and even thought it was a little ridiculous. He will never learn to respect, and will only use material things to cover up his emotional barrenness. I'm not polite. Just take it all. Then he turned around and contacted familiar second-hand luxury dealers and art brokers to discount them one by one. This windfall just served as the company's operating capital, and it can be regarded as his contribution to my new business. As for the Echo, not a word. After spending tens of millions of money, Gu Zhizhou finally appeared. He showed up at my business cocktail party for a key investment. Dressed in a suit and leather shoes, he still stood out among the entrepreneurs, instantly attracting the attention of the audience. I was having a good conversation with the target investor, and as soon as he came over, the air around him seemed to be stagnant, and countless inquiring, curious, and optimistic eyes lingered between us. Everyone knows about our boiling divorce. When we first left, a crucial cross-border cooperation project of the Gu family was at a critical stage, and in order to stabilize the stock price, it was originally planned to postpone the announcement of the divorce. As a result, Ren couldn't hold back and secretly posted an intimate photo with Gu Zhizhou on the internet, implying that he was about to take the throne. Overnight, she changed from a well-known inspirational internet celebrity to the mistress referred to by Qianfu, and was scolded bloody, which led to the turmoil of Gu's stock price. And the partners also questioned Gu Zhizhou's private morality. And the project was almost yellow, forced Gu's official to come forward urgently and officially announce the news that we had already divorced, and Ren was forced to log out of all social accounts and disappeared. But Gu Zhizhou was like a normal person at the moment, as if the turmoil had nothing to do with him. He walked up to me with a wineglass and a leisurely posture. Xinyang, long time no see. I ignored him, smiled apologetically at the investor, and prepared to leave. But he took a step sideways and blocked my way, with a hint of helplessness in his voice. The internet is now praising you for having a backbone and calling me a scumbag. After making trouble for so long, it's time to get angry, right? When you've had enough fun, go back. A cold anger suddenly rushed into my heart. Trouble, play, my suffering day after day, those crushed self-esteem. The pain of making up my mind to break free from the cage was just a temper tantrum that could be stopped at any time in his eyes. He has always underestimated my love for him, so he also regards our marriage as a game where he can do whatever he wants, and I have to stay where I am forever. Gu Zhizhou. I raised my eyes to look directly at him. My voice was as cold as ice. I'm not a child, and divorce is not a temper tantrum. Once I leave, I will never look back. The cynical smile on his face faded a little, but he quickly regained that posture with a little helpless connivance and reached out to pull me. Okay, it's me wrong. I admit my mistake. Okay, come back with me. I'm not used to it without you. Snap dash. The crisp slap sound is not loud at a slightly noisy cocktail party, but it is enough to instantly silence a small area around it. I withdrew my slightly numb hand, my chest heaving with anger. He covered his face and turned his head to look at me, with not much anger in his eyes. Are you depressed? He asked. If you are depressed, come back with me. At that moment, I looked at his handsome but extremely strange face, and I only felt bone-chilling sadness and absurdity. He never understood. I turned around, straightened my back in the midst of all the astonished, inquiring eyes, and left without looking back. Gu Zhizhou seemed to have completely torn off that careless disguise and began to appear in my life every now and then, sometimes downstairs in the studio. He leans against the car, attracting employees to whisper. Sometimes it is a partner's dinner. He comes uninvited, even in the cafes I frequent. I can meet him. He didn't make a fuss. He just looked at me with that complicated and stubborn look. I was so annoyed that the big project in my hand came to an end, and the company took annual leave. I immediately booked a plane ticket and dragged my suitcase alone to a European town famous for its snow-capped mountains and lakes. The sky is high and the scenery is magnificent, which can wash away the depression in people's hearts. I wore a simple jacket, plain face to the sky, and walked slowly along the shore of the lake, feeling the long-lost tranquility. Xinyang, a somewhat hesitant female voice sounded behind her. I turned around and saw Gu Tingting. She didn't have that group of little sisters by her side, and she was alone, wearing sportswear, less arrogant than before. She looked at me, her eyes no longer the naked hostility she had before, but a hint of imperceptible surprise. It seems to have changed a lot. She paused, her tone a little awkward, more than before. It's much more pleasing to the eye. I just smiled faintly. Thank you. We found a cafe by the lake and sat down. She stirred the coffee and suddenly said, actually, after you left, my best friend, Sister Lin, went to find her cousin. I raised my eyebrows, not surprised. Guess what? Gu Tingting curled her lips. My cousin didn't even give her one in the eye. In his eyes now. It seems that you are the only one left, which is really strange. She looked at me with a little self-deprecation. I used to think you were not worthy of your cousin. Now look at it. He doesn't seem to be worthy of you either. These words came out of her mouth, which really surprised me. Early the next morning, I pushed open the wooden door of the homestay and was about to watch the sunrise, but I saw the familiar figure leaning next to the jeep at the entrance of the inn. Gu Zhizhou. He actually chased here. The ghost does not disperse. The anger that had been pent up for a long time instantly rushed to the top of his head. I didn't even notice that Gu Tingting happened to come out of the next room and stood on the porch watching the show. Gu Zhizhou. Are you endless? I couldn't maintain my calm any longer, and my voice was cold. Didn't I tell you clearly enough? We're divorced and there is no relationship anymore. You are stalking like this. It will only make me feel sick and look down on you. Gu Zhizhou probably didn't expect that I would be so ruthless in front of others. His face sank instantly, and he was about to speak. Well said. Gu Tingting on the side suddenly clapped her hands and laughed. She glanced at Gu Zhizhou, her tone full of mockery. Cousin, did you hear that? People think you're disgusting. You didn't cherish people when they were around you before, so why pretend to be affectionate now? I really responded to that sentence. What I can't get is always in turmoil, and you deserve to chase your wife to the crematorium. Gu Zhizhou's face completely blackened into the bottom of the pot. Not long after, I met Meng Zixuan, a very clingy little milk dog. There is nothing wrong with a sister-brother relationship. At least it is simple and happy. The news somehow reached Gu Zhizhou's ears. He actually left hundreds of millions of dollars in mergers and acquisitions and flew directly to my city. He blocked me and Meng Zixuan downstairs in my company, and his eyes scraped the boy from head to toe like a knife. Xinyang, your taste is so bad now. His tone was mean, with condescending contempt. This kind of boy who doesn't even have hair on his face. What else is there besides his face? What can he give you? Meng Zixuan was not as cramped or angry as I imagined. He blinked those innocent eyes. His tone was gentle but prickly. This uncle, Sister Yangyang likes young and energetic people now, which is normal, after all. Who wants to always cover an old ice cube that can't be hot? Gu Zhizhou's face was blue. He glared at us fiercely, gritted his teeth and said, "Xinyang, you wake up. How many of these young people are sincere now? It's just for your money and status." I looked at his back and thought it was ridiculous. I turned to myself and said, "It's just right now. I'm most afraid of others talking to me." However, I soon discovered that Mencius was not as simple as he appeared. His so-called ordinary background is fake. He is a rich second generation who is like a fake. I made a quick decision and broke up. He was extremely aggrieved, and his eyes were red. "Is it wrong for me to have money? I really like you. There is no room for maneuvering in my attitude. Whether poor or rich, honesty is the bottom line." After saying goodbye to the rich second-generation little green tea, another person appeared beside me. His name is Zhou Ming, an ordinary architect, with a clean family, hard work, and sincere and steady treatment. We get along peacefully and naturally. Gu Zhizhou's cynicism came as scheduled. "Just play, Xinyang. You will know who is the most suitable for you after all. I'll wait for you to have enough fun and come back." But this time, my relationship was more stable than he imagined. He was obviously panicked. The phone calls began to increase, and the tone changed from the initial sarcasm to anxiety, until late one night, I received a drunken call from him, his voice hoarse and confused, with a sense of embarrassment that I had never experienced before. "Ripple, I was wrong. I really regret it. I can't do it without you. Can you come back?" Even Gu's mother, who has always been alienated, called. "Yangyang, Zhizhou, the state is very bad. Do you want to come back and see him?" She paused and sighed. "Forget it. He is also self-inflicted and not worthy of sympathy." I held my phone and felt calm. I know that Gu Zhizhou is always waiting for me to bleed one day, and then wake up, return to him, put on the laurel crown of Mrs. Gu again, and continue to be the docile canary in his cage. However, Gu Zhizhou, you won't understand. A person may be blind and stupid because of deep love, but he will never hand over the knife with his own hands after waking up, allowing the same person to hurt himself a second time. My way forward does not look back. Gu Zhizhou was called back to his old house by his mother's phone call, and his tone was rarely serious. He stepped into the living room rubbing his aching temples. The chaos of last night's hangover had not completely dissipated. His eyes swept over the coffee table at will, but suddenly froze there. It was an elegantly designed wedding invitation. His heart seemed to be clenched by an invisible hand, and he almost staggered and rushed over, picking it up with trembling hands. The name of the gilded stamping was clearly imprinted in his eyes. "Xinyang, I'm getting married." He only felt a fishy sweetness welling up his throat. They met when they were young, and they had been together for more than 10 years, and their entanglements were deep in their bones and blood. He thought that no matter how troubled he was, this bond would always be there, even if he was attracted by Enrant's pitiful weakness. He never really thought of separating from Xinyang. He waited for her tired bird to return to its nest, but she not only had a new life, but also got married. I didn't plan to inform him. This invitation was specially shown to him by his mother. "How could it be?" he muttered, his fingertips stiff until they turned white. How could she? Why did he still think that Xinyang would love him? Was it the humiliation again and again, or the time and time again that left her for others and gave him this ridiculous illusion? The belated pain swept over him like a tsunami, and his heart seemed to be hit by a blunt knife, and the pain made him bend down and could hardly breathe. In a trance, he seemed to see 18-year-old Xinyang again, wearing a simple white dress, running towards him in the sun, with a bright and dazzling smile. and his eyes were full of starlight from all over the world, only for him to twinkle. Zhizhou, he subconsciously stretched out his hand, wanting to touch the phantom. All I could touch with my fingertips was a patch of cold air. The phantom dissipated, and only his mother was sitting on the sofa, looking at his despondent appearance coldly, with an unabashed sarcasm on the corner of his mouth. Now you know it's uncomfortable. Gu's mother's voice was as cold as ice. You father and son. It's really a good thing. He didn't understand. Why can my mother endure my father's romance all my life, but Xinyang refuses to endure for him for even 6 years? He left the old house in despair. A month later, he sent another ghost to the wedding scene. He hid in the corner, watching Xinyang wear a holy wedding dress, his smile bright and relaxed like never before by his side. She exchanged rings with the man named Zhou Ming and kissed amidst the blessings of relatives and friends. So dazzling, he stumbled backwards and crashed into the cold wall. In his pocket, there was a physical examination report he had just gotten. Advanced gastric cancer. Doctors recommend immediate hospitalization. He only thought it was ridiculous at the time. Now, I suddenly feel that's fine. At least, I'm afraid the rest of my life won't be too long, so I won't have to suffer too long in this boundless pain of losing her. He glanced in the direction of happiness one last time, turned around and blended into the crowd, his back in a panic, like a homeless dog. End of full text.